Hey guys and girls, hi Alex, how's it going? I'm back from my amazing holiday away. Loads more footage came from that, but I just thought I would just show you a brief little part experience, I suppose. I didn't always fall in. There was lots of times when the water was very calm, and we just spent the day uh, paddling around on the coast. It was great. So I'm back at work. Actually, today's my day off. It's a Wednesday, and I've been in 2 days, so I've had a good 2 days at work. Found out it was my 1 year anniversary of starting that particular job. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. So this particular job is in an independent practice, an independent business, where before I worked in multiples. So the difference really is that in a multiple, it would be like a big corporation. One person will own hundreds and hundreds of different practices, and then they would work towards one big goal of having a profit, basically. Um, where in an independent, it is owned by one person or a couple of people, and there's only a couple of stores or practices or whatever it is, um, and so it's a lot more localized. So I changed, I had a big change last year, around my birthday actually, and decided to go into independent practice, and I've loved it really. There's certain things there's sort of positives and negatives within each business. So I thought since it's been a year since I've been there, I've got a good idea of the differences, and thought, hey, you guys might want to know. So if you're thinking of changing jobs into the independent sector, or changing your job from being an independent to a bigger conglomerate, or anything like that, a multiple business, then this might be some good insights for you. So I've put a few notes of like positives and negatives. So I'm gonna go through that with you. So in the independent sector, I can say that you get a lot closer to the leaders of the business, and usually the leaders of the business are the directors. In this particular business, there are three of them. There's a managing director who has the main share of the company, and there's two others which have a certain percentage in there, but it's split between the three of them. Um, and all of them work within the business, whether they're in the head office sort of little area, or they are in the actual stores. And this particular independent practice has 8 stores, where in the multiple they had over 600. So it just shows you the difference in the business in that respect. So because you're close to the leader of the business, you actually have more impact within the business, because there's a lot less people working there. If you've got any thoughts, any ideas, have any products or services that you've come across which you think would be a great idea, then you know it's more likely that's going to happen. Whereas if you're in more of a multiple, you are in a voice of thousands, and chances are no one's going to listen to what your ideas are. Um, even if people locally within your store or practice or whatever it is um, thinks is a good idea, it then has to go into, you know, approved by a regional manager, which then has to be approved by an area manager, which then has to be approved by some of the directors, and then it would have to go to the owner of the business. So it's such a long line up before you can make any changes. So they try and treat everything as uniform, and I don't think that necessarily works for every store, practice, etc. So being an independent, you can be a bit more unique, and you can adjust things. One thing might not work one place, but it could another, because the clientele's different. So you've just got a lot more flexibility, and the line to the people who make the decisions and overall give you the approval is much shorter. You know, it's usually a phone call. You can just walk upstairs or whatever it is, and have a one-to-one straight away. So that's been a big difference that I've found. I found relationships within each store, practice or business is really important. Again, there's a lot less people that you're working with. If you have an argument with someone in a multiple and need to move store, it's fine. There's plenty of stores to go around and to split people up, or if anything happens. Again, in a independent, you don't have that luxury. Everyone sort of knows everyone, or if there's some rumour going around, everyone will hear about it. So it feels a lot closer. So there's more of a community, which is nice as well. One thing when it comes to the positives of being in a multiple, of course, with the economic climates, especially in the UK, I suppose independents are in more risk of closing down or having financial trouble. In that respect, where if you're in a big conglomerate that is, all over the world, or the owner owns multiple things, if a business isn't making enough money, then they can obviously put money towards keeping it afloat. And if they want to, there's much less likely of you being, let go, if you're in a multiple. Where again, in an independent, that could easily happen if no one comes in, if no one buys anything, or if no one comes in for any services, depending on what business it is. That is something that can happen. Another thing I've noticed is in an independent, you tend to spend more. It tends to be more expensive because, of course, with these big businesses have contracts which, if you buy in bulk, things are cheaper. So if you're buying millions instead of 100,000, you get more of a discount, so they can sell things cheaper. But also, I tend to find that independents tend to go for more expensive manufacturers and things like that, just because it's better quality and it's better for their business. In that respect, that they're known for their quality, and there's less likely of a chance of people not getting on with things, and etc. etc. And I suppose they have to charge more to make it viable for the business. So that's just a reality. But within that, you tend to get better quality items, and you tend to get much better service because you tend to have a lot more time with the salesperson, or with the whether it's in my case with the optician, or the dispensing optician, or whoever the specialist is, I suppose. You have a lot more time to spend with them, which I think makes a big difference, especially if you're discussing your needs. If it's something bespoke you want, someone's there and has got the time to spend with you. Where again, in a multiple, you're so busy majority of the time that it's next. You don't always get that quality of detail. In the case of optics, you tend to get people with more complicated issues, or that they don't trust a multiple to do. Again, if you've got more time, like certain opticians will spend 20 minutes, if that, on looking at someone's eyes, and where in a multiple you tend to get 30 to 40 minutes. So again, if you've got more complicated issues, then that's much better as well. Just looking at my list here. I suppose one of the positives of the multiples is, especially in the case that I had, you did have a more generous or a better pension. You tend to find in independents, they will, now that you have to in the UK start a pension, or the business have to offer a pension, and you tend to find it's a very basic one, where they'll put in a certain percentage. Where I found in the multiple I worked in, they gave you sort of double whatever you put in, which was very, very generous. And so when it comes to me making my decision to move, that was a big thing that I factored in, that my pension would be less. But overall, you have to choose happiness and enjoyment of work overall over a little bit better of a pension. In my case, anyway. I suppose one of the main reasons I left the multiple is because it was very, very corporate, and it was getting more and more corporate every year. I was with them for a long time. So you just found that you were constantly justifying yourself, or having to write, essays justifying what happened every day and everything like that. So rather than spending time with the actual clients or customers, you were spending time in the office, writing emails to middle management and to feed up to the owner of why you didn't hit budget or why you did. And you tend to have lots of meetings that are unnecessary, and phone calls, and they just bombarded you with stuff which, in my opinion, made gave the middle managers something to do while disrupting everything else. So I'm not a big fan of middle management. From that, I think it's just a big waste of time. I suppose there are some good reasons, and it's to keep in contact with each practice's manager and keep on track with that. But some of them just threw too much, or just got the managers who are supposed to be looking after the store to do their job or to do their work. So I think I've just had some bad ones in the past, and that might be why. But it was just got too much, and it was such a waste of time. It didn't affect anything. It just meant that I couldn't focus on what I was paid to do, really. So overall, I would say I'm happy with my decision. Like I said, there was a few financial things I had to think about, that I could be better off if I'd stayed in the multiples, but I'm much happier, and it suits me much better. So yeah, that's sort of what I wanted to talk about today. So if you have any further questions on my experiences between independence and multiple practices, please let me know. I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but I would say overall I am much happier in an independent practice. So just like, comment, subscribe. Happy to hear any comments regarding the videos or anything. If it's too long, if it's too boring, I could always throw in special effects or something, some music in between. Anything like that, we're happy to hear about. So yeah, I think that's it for me today, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks.